All right, welcome back to True Poker Dealer live stream. My name is Mark Shumsker, and I'll be your host for the day. And today we're diving into this is really exciting. We are talking about what it's like to open a poker room from scratch, and we're lucky enough to have this conversation before the poker room being opened is even finished yet, which means this is going to be part one. Okay, so today what we're going to do is we're going to dive into what's been done so far in the process of opening a poker room, and we are with a poker room director in this room. So we're very excited about this. Now, if you have any questions, suggestions, please put them in the chat and I'll get to them at the end of the video. And before we get started, I do want to remind you to please subscribe to the channel. Subscribing is great for you to find out when I put out new content, and it's also a free way to show support to a creator like me. Like I said, my name is Mark Shumsker, and I am the founder of True Poker Dealer. I have been working in poker in casinos since 2007 as a dealer, supervisor, and shift manager. I also did a stint as a table games dealer and floor as well. And I did create True Poker Dealer to help people learn how to deal poker. And since 2012, when it first started, I've helped thousands of people like you learn to be poker dealers. And right now, I am here with Rich Lehman. And I'm very excited to be here with you. This is really fascinating. This is part one of two parts where right now we're getting you into this process of opening this poker room. Thank you for being here. And later when the room's open, we're gonna actually go through and talk about what it took to get it open for the rest of the way. But Rich, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and we'll do a little intro on you here.
Okay, great. Yeah, I am Rich Lehman, 53 years old, basically taking on the job of a lifetime. Very excited about opening poker in Virginia at Pop's Poker. A lot of things going on, just getting it all set up. To give you a little bit about myself, my background is engineering and computer consulting. I'm basically a problem solver and have been consulting with businesses all this time, solving all kinds of data and type of problems. And I've been involved in poker for the better part of 25 years. And, in terms of like playing at a Texas Hold'em and in casinos and like that, probably closer to 15 years, mostly as a player. And it's just very, very exciting to consider the fact that here we are on the precipice of getting a card room open in Virginia and being able to allow Virginians to finally take advantage of the great game of poker. So I'm proud to be one of the people involved with getting this card room open.
And it's amazing. Obviously we've discussed some of what has gone into opening this, and we met through YouTube, which is one of the coolest things ever. This keeps coming up for me in my life. And so this is Pop's Poker Room in Richmond, Virginia. And that's where it's at. Richmond is a place that's wanted poker for a long time, right?
Oh yeah. There have been poker players in Virginia since the dawn of poker. I mean, I would, it's one of the first original 13 colonies. I imagine, when the moment it started, it was happening in Virginia years ago. But since the poker boom, absolutely, there have been games popping up all over the place, but they've been, either home games or maybe some underground type games. But there's never been anything that had the imprimatur of the state on it that said, okay, we can now have legalized poker in the state of Virginia. This is the first time.
So that's actually a great segue to the first place I want to go. So a lot of people, when they think about being a poker room manager, poker director, I don't know exactly what the titles are for every single room, but it's the same position, right? A lot of people want to know, or actually a lot of people think, even everybody thinks, I can do this, no problem. I can do this, no problem. It's just ordering some tables, it's just ordering some chips, it's all that stuff. But one of the conversations that come up ultimately is the poker room director is responsible for knowing all the regs and all the legal jargon. And can you talk a little bit about what it's like? Like I was literally picturing you when you were describing it to me with like a cartoon clothes hangers with your eyes open, like reading all this stuff. Can you talk a little bit about what do you need to be able to do in order to do this job?
Yeah, here's the proposed regs right here. And it's not like reading, for example. Everything is underlined because actually every single word in here is underlined because it's all brand new. That's what I've been told. If it's underlined, it's brand new. So I wouldn't say clothes hangers per se, but you need something to prop your eyes open, kind of like Clockwork Orange, You have to read it, and you can't get bored with it. You have to take your time through it and go through every fine detail, which I've done quite a bit over the last few months. To give you a little bit of background, I'm working with Chuck Lesson and Akiva Lesson. Pops is a family-owned business. Chuck and Judy have been running Pops for, I think, the better part of 30 years or so. It's a bingo operation. Predominantly, that's how it started. It also it's a charitable gaming facility. In Virginia, bingo is, up until this point, has been the only type of charitable gaming that we could have. And so we had bingo for years. I grew up, knowing about bingo at, you could have it at temples or synagogues. It was all for charitable gaming, not for profit, but charitable. Pops took advantage of that situation, a need to provide bingo to people and to provide a charitable outlet for certain organizations. If you were a 501c3, or I should say 501c, a church or synagogue, a VFW, moose, elk lodges, things like that, all could take advantage of bingo. But more recently, there have been some challenges in the bingo industry where the profits have fallen as a result of some pretty ingenuitive thinking, I would say, on the part of Colonial Downs, which is a racetrack conglomerate that came up with a brilliant idea to find a way to legalize slot machines in the state of Virginia. Instead of basing the slot machines off of random numbers, they base those results off of historical horse racing results. Well, horse racing is legal in the state of Virginia, and I'm not an expert on this part of it. And but this is the general idea of it. And we had a company called Rosie's, which is part of Colonial Downs, come into Virginia and open up essentially what amounts to a casino-like environment with thousands of these slot machines. That definitely siphoned off some of the business that was going towards bingo. A lot of people, they have, that income that they have. They say, okay, well, I'm going to take some of this, and this is my gambling money, etc. They go to bingo for that. Oh, now there's this new thing where I can sit down and play slot machines all day. So it kind of affected that market. So bingo kind of took a little bit of a dive. And Chuck Lesson, who is the chairman of the board of the Charitable Gaming Board in Virginia, has been working on this poker bill for about 5 years. And we just got it passed this year. It went into effect July 1st. Currently, we're waiting the regulations to work themselves out. With any given law, you're going to have specifics to the law that are not going to be included in the original law. I mean, for example, you could say, all right, we're going to have speed limits in the state of Virginia. Furthermore, you could say we're going to put 55 as the highway, and 45 as a main road, and 35 as a secondary road, and 25 for residential areas. But you're not going to put specifically that Patterson Avenue is 45 up until this street and then 35 beyond that street. These are specifics that have to be included in a regulation type of definition. And so we have the same thing in poker. We have some main bill that was passed, which is called Senate Bill 936. And now we're working through regulations that more clearly define how poker is going to be played in Virginia. And that's where we're hopefully the regulations will be done later this month.
So first of all, that's a fascinating bit of insight. And for anybody watching right now, you can clearly see what's required to be the person running a poker room, right? It's a lot more than just poker. And there's a lot of responsibility there. And, back in 2009, I was a part of a 3-person team that opened up a poker room in South Florida. And I was not the one responsible for the regs, but I did get to hear a lot of this stuff. And I'm hearing again from you, and it's a lot, right? Like there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. A lot of, there's a lot is the simplest way to say it.
There, it's interesting. There's a really great tradition here in Virginia with bingo going back long before Pops even. I'm told it's over 50 years. I don't know the exact number. You can imagine that after they've developed this over a period of years to where they've got it so fine-tuned. If you're doing bingo, they know every square inch of that business. And even still, they still come up with new things every year, like aggressive jackpot, how that will be run or how this run. And they have these different things. They bring these ideas up to a board and they pass them. And this is after 50 plus years of doing regulations. Here we are in Virginia. They just passed the law. They're just now coming out with the first set of regulations. So there's still a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of things that aren't even covered under the regulations because they haven't thought to cover them yet. And then there are things that maybe they're covering that are a little overly strict or a little overburdening that maybe they need to loosen up on and fix for the future. So it's interesting how, this first year is going to be, because it's a little bit, in some ways, restrictive and yet unrestricted in certain ways.
It's really cool to hear that. I mean, stuff was passed, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it was passed, and now here you guys are, right? So I'm kind of curious to step away from the regulations a little bit, because my brain started to hurt, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, mine too.
Yeah, but this is the world.
And I'm not a lawyer. So this is really not even light reading for lawyers.
So then, in addition to the regs, there's a lot of pieces that have to be put together in order to open a room. And, some of them, there's the budget, there's the vendors, there's the staff. Like what's been your experience with this stuff so far in setting up in order to be able to open a poker room?
Well, for starters, there are a lot of stuff is readily available to anyone that wants to buy it. And then there are certain things that are not readily available because they're involved in the gaming industry. Most of the items that are involved in the gaming industry, the companies already know that when they go into a new state, they're going to have some compliance issues that they have to work out. For example, if you want an automatic shuffler, okay, you'd think I could just buy a shuffler and be done with it. But that's not necessarily true. These shufflers have to conform to certain standards. They have to pass certain tests. There are industry standards on the tests that they have to pass, and there's certain certifications that they have to have. And then the question is, does your state recognize those certifications or not? And if they don't recognize the certifications, like, for example, Virginia doesn't have, this is one of the things that was kind of open, like, oh, well, shufflers, what do we do about shufflers? Well, let's see what other states have done. And let's look into what other states have done for compliance in these matters. And then we start to try to adopt those principles within the regulations. It's strange that, you'd have a shuffler that's available in New Jersey or available in Atlantic City or in Vegas, no problem. You come into Virginia, it's like, wait a minute. We can't sell to you guys because we don't have compliance in Virginia. It's like, wait a minute, we don't even really have a shuffler compliance set of rules. So it's one of the hurdles that we had to jump over. We had to talk to get a lawyer involved and get their compliance person involved. We talked to the attorney generals and the regulatory people, and we start to talk and get them talking so that we can have compliance so that we can buy shufflers in the state of Virginia. And
So here I am asking you what the pieces are to open a poker room, and you're like, listen, before I can even answer that, I want you to understand for one piece how hard it is in a state where it's all brand new, basically, right? And for anyone that doesn't know, as Rich mentioned, the shuffle machines go through very, very specific testing, because imagine if they didn't, right? If there wasn't math testing where they verify that these things are fair and random and all that stuff, you could easily program a shuffler to do things that you wouldn't want in the industry. And in a previous live stream, I was interviewing magicians, right, where they were trying to do a hand shuffle and they were able to keep it in order. And to me and to a lot of people that watched it, it looked pretty clean. And so, the shuffle machines are no different, right? You don't want any company to be able to manipulate anything. So I totally get that. And at the same time, oh boy, what a lot of work that is.
If you want to, I could expand on shufflers a little bit here since we're on them.
Sure.
Fantastic. I love the idea of the automatic shuffler. We've chosen to go with Scientific Gaming as the supplier, and the shuffler is called the Deckmate 2. And this is essentially top of the line shuffler that they offer in the industry. You'll find this same shuffler in virtually every casino in Vegas and Atlantic City. It is a shuffler that it can shuffle a deck in 25 seconds or less. The shuffle includes a optical verification of every single card in the deck. So it verifies every single card, suit and rank. And if there's a discrepancy, meaning there's a card that doesn't exist that should, or an extra card that exists that shouldn't, there's a separate, it's like a little, like a little phone almost that's built into the table. That's part of the shuffler. The shuffler is actually separate. I don't have the sample of the shuffler in front of me, but the shuffler's, about this big with a lid that opens up, and they drop the deck in, it shuffles, goes down in a little bucket, shuffles, comes back up on the other side, flap opens up, they pull it out. But there's also one of these. And on this thing, it'll say minus, meaning it's not there. Ace of spades, 3 of diamonds, 5 of clubs. You can pull these cards. I watched the rep do this. He pulled a card out, 5 of diamonds, sent it through the shuffler. 25 seconds later, it popped up with an error, and it said negative 5 of diamonds. It was amazing. And
yeah, those things are awesome.
It's amazing. And the other thing, to your point of, how you have to, if it didn't go through the testing and it wasn't certified, these shufflers can not only randomize things and tell you what's missing, it can also put things in order. And it puts it in the order. The only kind of order that they have it put in is deck order. So at the end of the night, it can go ace through king, ace through king, ace through king by the suit. But if you do that, it's like a big notification. You can't even get to the cards without interacting with it in a completely different way, so that the dealer knows, oh, this is a shuffled deck, properly.
Listen, I love the idea. What's happening right now is beautiful, because you are demonstrating that it takes more specific knowledge in order to do this job than it does to be, say, a dealer, right? Like for true poker dealer right here, right? I don't need to know how the thing works. I don't need to know that stuff. I just need to know how to use it, Right. But in order to do your side of it, there's so much stuff there. And I've seen the screens that came up. The most recent place I dealt at didn't have the LED screen that goes with it, and I've seen it as a player. And anyone that plays, they see deck go in, deck come out, right? Like it's sort of that simple.
The largest competitor was another company that basically takes the deck and weighs the deck, and can determine based on that weight whether there's 52 cards or not. So that's pretty good. Verify the deck for the most part, right? But if there's a card missing, they'll know it. If there's an extra card, they'll know it. But they won't know if there's 2 of the same card and someone actually replaced the card. So it doesn't have the same quality of verification. It doesn't come with the same price tag either. But we felt it was necessary to go with the very best that we could. And so we went with the Deckmate 2s.
So how many did you look at? Like for ordering shufflers, how many did you look at?
You mean different types of shufflers?
Like what's involved in the process of doing the job, Well,
you're doing a lot of Googling for starters, right?
Yeah.
It's one thing. Let me back up and maybe say this. It's one thing if we were opening an MGM casino here in Richmond, right? MGM has opened, dozens of casinos around the world. They have a science of this. They have a supplier already for shufflers. They can just say, give me 10 more shufflers, give me 500 decks of cards. I want chips. Order, done. I spent 3 months trying to get in touch with the largest supplier to casinos. I'm not going to mention names, but I spent 3 months trying to get in touch with them. Couldn't get a call back. Got through their phone tree. Never could, left messages. Finally, after 3 months, got in touch with a rep. He was great on the phone. He said, I said, look, we have to make a decision on these chips in the next week. Can you please send me your samples out, like as soon as possible? He says, I'll send them out. You'll get them by Monday. If you don't get them, then call me Tuesday, whatever. Tuesday comes, I don't have them. I'm calling them. I'm leaving them messages. And then Thursday he calls me back and goes, oh, sorry, man, I forgot to send them. And I'm like, I don't know if you'd have done that with MGM. I don't know. It's a little hard to get started, And so all the things that would come naturally for an MGM, they could just literally just say, okay, let's put another card room in motion. We have to then, we have to go through compliance issues. We have to sourcing, which is standard for any business. I'm not saying it's any harder than opening up any other business, because every business has to source their supplies. And so we're just sourcing supplies. So there's a lot of Googling involved. There's reaching out to other people in the industry, like Mark. Mark is one of the people I reached out to in the industry. We're going to probably talk about that in a little bit, and what it takes to get dealers into Virginia. Yet another series of challenges.
Yeah, that's on my list for sure. Well, just sticking to this topic for a second, although I'm sort of like getting pulled, but sticking to this topic. So you had to not only it's not as simple as, well, which shuffler do I want? They're not just on this like tray for you to pick one. It's
Oh, no,
how do I even get through to the vendors? How do I figure out what the industry standard is? How do I and you've done this with chips and shufflers and tables and
Cards.
yeah, like do you have any story about picking out a poker table that you could share or picking out poker chips?
I mean, there are stories on everything. I mean, for starters, the shuffler, it's like, talking to the rep at SG Gaming, and he's a fantastic guy, and I really like him. But probably the first call we had was like, he's like, "What? Virginia? You're opening in Virginia? What are we going to do in Virginia?" But fortunately, he had a meeting. He's up in New Jersey. Came down to go visit MGM National Harbor and said, "I'm coming down on Thursday. How about after I'm visit with him, I'll come and visit you." We're like, "Please." And we made that connection. And ever since then, he has helped the ball rolling. But even he had to go back to his people and say, "Hey, guys, come on. I got Virginia waiting. Virginia wants these shufflers. Can we sell them or not?" And that took 2 months, 2 months. Chips. Chips. Chips are tough. Chips are really hard.
We got the question, who did you get your chips from? This is from a member, Greg, Greg, I always appreciate your support. So I'm putting this up here.
I see it. Yeah, we ended up ordering our chips from Icon Manufacturing. We looked at several. We looked at, of course, there's TCS John Huxley, and there's GPI, there's Icon, there's Matsui, there's several chip manufacturers out there. We looked at all of them that we could get our hands on and that we could get samples of, etc. In the end, we ended up making a choice based on availability. Some of these chips are manufactured overseas, like I'm not going to get into names of which ones. Some of them are manufactured in China or Korea. And in order to get them back to the States, you're looking at significant fees and significant delays. They can't just put them on FedEx and overnight. I mean, chips are heavy. And when you're buying, you have to buy tournament chips, you have to buy cash chips. So we're looking at, buying both styles of chips. And it adds up to a lot of weight. And so you're looking at significant costs bringing them back. That's one thing. Number two, if they say, well, we don't have availability to even start making them for 2 months, and even then it's another month and a half delay till we get them to you. That's only getting them into the States, and they have to go through customs and this and that. We'll get them to you in 4 months. And I had quotes like that, and I had to turn those down. We had others where the price was just not competitive. We had others, you have to look at the security of the chips so that they can't be counterfeited. And some companies have better security than others, or more options than others. I think most companies will have like an infrared that you can embed into the chip. Others have RFID. You can do RFID, which is by far the greatest, I would say, but it's also extremely expensive. And I don't think any reasonable card room is going to invest and put all of their chips into RFID.
Yeah, just me personally, I'm saying this because it's fun for me to say. I feel like RFID is an old new technology that is going to continue to advance in casinos slowly and eventually possibly take over when it's less expensive and has more practical uses. But so it's interesting to even hear that there's chip manufacturers that are talking about it and that you're looking into that stuff even too. And this is the type of stuff that we don't get to know if we're not the ones doing this job, right? Like. We don't know what it takes. We don't know. Me and everybody watching, well, I take it back. I have a decent amount of insight because I was there for one of them, but still, it's not the same. And I certainly appreciate you story sharing that stuff. And so, Greg also asked the question here as a follow up, and feel free to answer as much or as little of this as you want. But about chip design process.
Yeah, this was a good question. I've always wondered about the chip design process. Who designs the chips? So the answer to that is someone obviously has to design the chips, and it's either you or it's the chip manufacturer. And in the case of Icon, we gave them a logo, and they came back with these beautiful chip designs. And right off the bat, we were like, wow, that looks great. I thought we were going to have to get our own graphic designer to do it. But as it turns out, they did it for us. I want to share with you. I can't get my mouse over. Okay. let me.
Well, that's interesting. While you're pulling that up, so you're saying that there's a company out there for anyone that's looking to open a room, et cetera, that might handle some of the process. I've heard some horror stories personally about designing chips from poker room managers in the past. Now, this is 10 years ago, and et cetera, where you have to figure out all the color schemes and get them to match and all that stuff. So if there's a company that does it uniform and puts your logo on it and everything, that's really cool to hear about, honestly.
Yeah.
And I know some of the people watching this right now are thinking, can I get them for my home games? Probably not, because a lot of them only sell to casinos, unfortunately.
Right. A lot of them only sell to casinos, and that's why one of the reasons we had a hard time, coming up with, with a solution for this. And we had to actually find a place that was okay. Share the whole thing. We had to find a place that would design the chip and work with us. This is Icon, and they did this in a matter of like a day or two. The guy came out and had different colors and took our logo, which you can see in the upper right-hand corner of the share of this live stream. We basically just gave him the logo. And if you note, let me kind of see if I could zoom in here on this a little bit. Right, you can kind of see on this chip where he took some of the aspects of our logo. See these stars down here? He took these aspects and he built them around the chip design. He also took this bottom angle, and he mimicked it above the number. He did all the rest of this. All the rest of it he put together. And when he sent this design back, we were all like, wow, that looks great. Man, I love that. I really like it. First time out. So we didn't actually have to design any of it. Now we have our own graphic designer who designed the logo, and he does our in-house graphics and things like that. The things we're going to do for marketing, he's responsible for that. But in this particular case, we did not have to get him to do this graphic design. It was all kind of done for us by Icon. And when they came out with this design right off the bat, I was very happy with it. I just liked it right off the bat. I thought it was done very professionally. And then the only thing we really had to choose were colors and edge spots and things like that.
That makes a lot of sense, and that's really cool to see. Boy, there's a lot to talk about here. I'm just thinking through. I mean, you're looking at just chips. You had to do table design. You had to decide so many different things. So let me see. Yeah, is there anything you want to talk about with ordering tables or felts or any of that stuff? Just from curiosity for people that don't know what it's like.
Yeah, sure. I'll give you a little. There are just stories about what's going on. When it came to the table design and the table itself, we went with a company called Rye Park Gaming. And what happened was right towards the beginning of my involvement with the project, which has been since May of this year. And I was working with Chuck Lesson and Akiva Lesson, his son. And it's really the two of them that are the owners of this. And I'm working with them as poker operations manager. Chuck said to me, look, I need to go and pick out tables. Can you go with me? And this was back in early June. Now, at that particular time, my father was on his deathbed, actually, and we had limited time. And I couldn't really leave at that time. And so I actually turned down a trip to Vegas, which is not like me at all. And Chuck went out himself and hand-picked out these tables. These tables are their elite tables. They're the same tables that they had sold and put into the Venetian and the Bellagio. So they're really, really nice tables. They're the best we could get out of Vegas. And then we came up with this design here. We had a interior designer that we've also been working with who helped put together colors and things like that. So even like the colors of the room, and I can tell you based on experience as a computer consultant, having worked with companies, and ultimately a company comes to you and says, we need to brand ourselves. Do you know anything about branding? Well, yes, I know about branding because I worked with hundreds of companies over the years, and it just comes up over and over again to the point where they start asking me advice. Do you think this color goes with this color? Whatever. And I know companies that have spent tens of thousands of dollars just for a color scheme.
Right.
Forget the logo. The logo could cost you tens of thousands of dollars. So in this particular case, I don't know, do you have that? Can you share that screen right there? That's what our table is going to look like. This right here is the design. This was come up with by our interior decorator actually chose that fabric, and then they incorporated the logo, and we went through a few different iterations of, how big should the graphic in the middle with the red overlay be, little decisions along the way. Most of them are just aesthetic, and some of them are reality. We're not having a betting line, so really the red in the middle is kind of insignificant, but it's just more eye appealing the way it is now than the way it was the first time they made it. Was much smaller and thinner than it is even now. It's little decisions like that along the way that you have to make in terms of, where we put in the logo, how many logos do we put, what's the background design going to be, what are the basic colors going to be, the color of the felt, the color of the rail, the color of the chairs, the color of the stitching on the chairs. It's crazy. Stitching.
I'm putting you front and center because, oh gosh.
Stitching. Come on. Stitching on chairs, right? But it makes a difference. When you come into a place and you notice, I'll give you a quick story. One of my also parts of my background is I play drums in a wedding band. And I've been doing this for better part of 25 years. I've been at a lot of weddings, okay? And they vary in degree of how nice they are. One time I remember being at a wedding at the 31st Hilton on 31st Street in Virginia Beach, and we were playing a wedding. And they had these guys up on ladders that were focusing lights onto the centerpieces of each table. And they had white flowers. And so it was kind of dark in the room, but these focal lights really beautified the table. It just exploded. And I went over and looked at it. And this was before the wedding started, after the sound check. We just got a little free time. And the guy who was in charge of it, the manager, I happened to be talking to, his name was Tom Johnson, And this guy was a stickler for detail. And I said, wow, you have these plate holders and plates on top of them. And I noticed that the plate holders have the same exact color as the wicker part of the chairs. He goes, yeah, I just had the plate holders dyed this week. I mean, that's attention to detail, right? Yeah. That guy, not only is he focusing the light on the flowers, that's kind of everyone can do that, but you're going to make the plate warmer, the little plate holders that are made of wicker, like wicker wood, whatever, and they're going to match the chairs. You're going to worry about that? It's a different shade of brown, and you're going to color it to match. It was just amazing. And I learned something from that guy that day. Pay attention to detail. I think that people appreciate when you walk into your own, if you walk into your own card room, is it a place that you would want to gamble? Is this a place, use your own cards, use your own cards.
Man, there's so many things that a person that walks into a poker room probably doesn't think about, that if you're the one that is responsible for it, you're thinking about all of it. And that's even more fascinating. Thinking about that it's a lot. The stitching on the chairs, and I've heard stuff like that as well. Taking a second to sort of take all that in just to see what it's like. So then, and this is before you even talk about staffing it. You sort of brought this up earlier. I see a handful of questions in there about staffing a room like this. So what is involved from your experience so far? And I have some of the answer too. I know this is my world as well now, but what is involved in staffing a poker room from scratch?
Let me give you the overall arching philosophy, and we'll work it down from there. Okay. Sure. All right. And it's not just my philosophy. This is also Chuck and Akiva's philosophy, Chuck and Akiva Lessons philosophy. Surround yourself with quality people. Just surround yourself with quality people that know what they're doing, and then work from there. So, if you don't know poker very well, let's say Chuck knows bingo extraordinarily well. He is very good at working with people. He's very good politically, working with the politics within the state of Virginia, et cetera. Akiva has very similar talents in that he's fantastic with people, and he's he gets things done. I know poker, and I know how to solve problems, and it's a good marriage for this type of a problem. And so we decided to work together, and it's been a great union of minds and efforts. So for starters, surround yourself with good people. I don't think that I could have done it without them, and I'm not sure if they could have done it without me, at least in this time frame that we're still working on. So for starters, surround yourself with good people. Second of all, you got to work hard. You got to put the effort in. Ultimately, you're going to have people that come and go and work. Some work out, some don't work out, etc. But you got to consistently put that effort in to keep hitting at it. It's like an old adage of the spaghetti theory. You throw enough spaghetti against the wall, some of it sticks. And so you have to kind of be willing to go through some of the rejections involved with getting people up to speed or bringing people on, and being able to weed through that to find the cream of the crop.
So,
philosophy.
So about how many people do you have to hire when you're opening a room, and do you do it all at once where you hire? Those types of questions. How do you even come up with a number, right?
Yeah, I have a number. I don't know if it's right yet. I think you have to be willing to make mistakes and then solve them. I can tell you my background as a computer consultant. I've done a lot of programming, and I wish I could say that every program that I ever wrote, I wrote it perfectly from start to finish, line after line with no error. I can't imagine meeting a programmer that was able to do that. Okay. There is trial and error in everything you're going to do. And I think you have to be willing to accept trial and error as the most efficient way after some study and thought goes into it. I'm not saying blind trial and error. You have to have an understanding of what you're trying to accomplish and then be willing to make a mistake and solve it. So when you ask the question, how many people does it take to solve this problem? I say, well, we're opening 10 tables. We'd like to have 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. Okay, so that's 2 shifts a day per table if I was full on. And that's 20 shifts per week of 8 hours, 8-hour shifts. Just thinking off the top of my head. And knowing that I can't work someone 8 straight hours. How do I know that? Well, not because I've been a dealer for 20 years and I have the experience, but because I work with people and have talked to people like Mark who have this experience, and they say, well, you can put in an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, and then they need a break. They get a break and they go on break for 30 minutes and they come back and they do another run for an hour and a half to 2 hours. And so I start thinking about, well, okay, I'm going to have to incorporate breaks in there. So I need more than 20 people. Maybe I need 25 people. And then maybe people aren't working every single day. So I got to have built in for people that work for 4 days a week or 5 days a week or 2 days a week or 7 days a week.
I super appreciate that insight into what it takes to figure out what the staffing is. And I just want to tell a quick story. I don't know if I told you this before, but when I was a part of opening the room originally in South Florida, we had 29 physical tables in the room. And by the way, you mentioned 10 tables you're opening, but you have the capacity for more. Pretty quickly, right?
It's hard to determine the exact amount of tables we could expand to. Minimum, we could expand to 30.
Gotcha. So there's a lot of room there. That's awesome. So we opened a 29 table room, and we had hired, I think it was 95 dealers that we got, and we within maybe like a month and a half, we were down to about 45 or 50 because we didn't actually get the business in our specific cases. A lot of competition in South Florida, and we hired high and then had to let it go. And to your point, it became a successful room and everything like that. But you got to sort of be willing to take a stab at it and then adjust, right? In my experience, this is me talking from my experience for a second. There's a lot of figuring stuff out, but at the end of the day, a poker room, and I've had conversations with you about this, and you're great with this, focusing on improving regularly is way more valuable than trying to tell people you get it right the first time. I loved hearing you say that. And that mentality, just from my experience, is one of the reasons I wanted to have you here to sort of highlight that, because that is so valuable to a poker room. I don't think, in my experience, a lot of poker room managers truly understand that, which is why it's good to have other backgrounds going into poker too, like you've talked about. So
yeah. I'm hoping that this experience that I have, being a consultant entrepreneur, is going to serve me well here. But I do believe that, trial and error, educated trial and error is the fastest way to get to a solution. I could make this mistake and hire too many people and then, have to back down, or I can make the mistake and not hire enough and ramp it up. Either way, as long as you're willing to make that adjustment, then you spend more time trying to achieve perfection the first time out than you will making the adjustment. So you're going to be much more efficient being willing to make adjustments as you go. That's my philosophy, and that's based off of my experience as a computer consultant.
Love hearing all that.
That being said, there's a whole another series of stories on how to staff it up, right? So that was just the overall philosophy on staffing, but if you want to get into the other,
listen, I'm listening and they're listening too. What do you got?
Well, we're in Richmond, Virginia. Okay, less specifically, Virginia. And Virginia, I would venture to say, has 0 dealers that are looking for jobs in the state of Virginia as a dealer. Right? 0. There's no industry here, none for poker dealers. So we had to kind of start creating our own industry. If I was in Las Vegas and I was the poker manager for the Bellagio, and you came to me and said, look, I would like to be a poker dealer. I would say, okay, what are your credentials? Well, I don't have any credentials. I would like to just become a poker dealer. I would say, okay, here you go. Here's a list of 10 places you can go that are poker dealer training schools. It'll cost you $1,000 or so. Go get your education, come back when you have an education and you're ready and a certificate. We'll audition you and you'll see how it goes. I don't have any of that available to me in Virginia. Nothing. There are no poker dealers just sitting around waiting for a job. There are that I've been able to find. Maybe there are, but probably not.
Very few at the most, yeah.
Yeah, there's no industry of that. There are no schools in Virginia. I did approach another piece that, I had to investigate. I went to a couple of the top, local colleges, ECPI, Strayer University, those types of places. Were not really interested in putting on a dealer training school. So I had no dealer trainings available for people. And so what do you do? What do you do now? You have to decide to put on your own training school. And that's when I started, doing a little Google and came across the great Mark Shumsker. Ta-da!
Appreciate that.
And quite frankly, man, you deserve huge applause. Mark has been fantastic. And I started looking at the videos like a lot of people, and he gives you some freebies that you can kind of go in there and go, oh, wow, I really like this. And I really like his approach. And he's very patient, non-judgmental, understanding, and he's very knowledgeable. So it's a great combination for a teacher and a consultant. And so I started talking to him. I opened up a dialogue. He got a email probably out of the blue. Hey, this is Rich Lehman from Richmond, Virginia. We're opening a card room. I need some help, blah, blah, blah. And here's my number. Call me. And I remember sitting at dinner with my wife, and we're talking, the phone rings. It's Mark Shumsker. I'm like, honey, I got to take this call. I got to go. But we just sat down. I'm like, I'm going. All right. I got to talk to him. And I think we were on the phone for about an hour or so the first time. And it was just great. We had a great, connection right from the start. And this is part of what I'm saying. You have to be able to surround yourself with good people. You have to be able to reach out. You can't act like you know everything or you have every solution. You got to work hard to find the solution on your own and reach out to other people when you hit walls or you don't understand something. And when it came time to crack the nut of training people, I had to reach out because I'm not a professional dealer and never have been a professional dealer. I would like to think I'm good at it, but I don't, I'm not a pro. And there's a big difference between being a pro and being a good player that can deal.
To that point, there's a lot of people think that a person has to be a poker dealer in order to go up the ladder. And in some rooms, that's totally the case, right? I know a handful that have not been dealers that have successfully made it all the way up. And, funny enough, every single one of them that I think of has quite the background in computer solutions or of some sort. I'm just realizing that now. But first of all, it was really cool to get that email from you. I do get emails like that from time to time, and it just blows me away what YouTube does. And so thank you to YouTube. And I also understand that I put a lot of work in myself in order to be able to get this. And it was a coincidence that I created an entire course start to finish this summer too, that, gets to help Virginia, which is really cool for me to be able to be a part of a solution for the problem you just described.
It's huge. I have people that, I realized that the videos were a great method. It's like the textbook that we go by. You know what I mean? Like but you have to have some in-class work as well. And, I have several people that are engaged in the process right now, and they're going through the videos. And then we have these workshops at Pops, and we sit around the table, and we really just have a great time, really, to be honest with you. We're playing poker, but we're learning how to deal. And so whenever something comes up, somebody throws a $10 bet out there, and another guy says raise and throws $12 out there. Stop. What does that mean? What is the ruling behind that? How do you define this gesture? Let's go back to the rule book and let's figure out what the rules say. Not only do you have to know what the rule is, but you have to know how to interact with the customer and say, I'm sorry, but that's going to have to just be a call because it's less than 50% of a proper raise. There are so many little things that I think define what a dealer has to do, not least among which is to know those rules inside and out so that you can articulate that to a player in a nice way where they still want to give you a tip, and they still want to continue to come into your room and play.
So to that point, all of this is a very interesting perspective. I love the fact that you're here saying this. Do you still have positions that, like, are all your positions hired and ready to go? Do you have still? I mean, actually, I should say it from this perspective. I do know the answer to this. You've gotten some pretty good response, but you're having to train people in Virginia, right? And then, what would somebody do if they're interested? Is really what I should be saying here.
All right, I'll give a little precursor to that answer, and then I'm going to get to what we're doing and how someone could get involved. I'm getting all kinds of applicants coming in. Okay, we've advertised on different platforms, etc., and I have word of mouth, and I have things like Indeed or Monster or ZipRecruiter. We even put out a ad in, I'm going to leave this one nameless, but through a popular casino advocate company that is a headhunter for casino type jobs. And we put an ad with them, and after a solid month, only had one person reply, and he happened to be in Malaysia, but he speaks very good Tagalog or whatever. I don't know the language, and his Arabic is also pretty good. So it doesn't really come in handy for us, and it was kind of a little bit of a letdown that that one didn't work out. But we have several other venues where we're trying to pull people in. In general, the type of people that are applying I put them in 3 buckets. Number 1, you don't know anything about poker at all, but you want a job. Number 2, you know poker and you want a job. And number 3, you're a professional dealer. So if number 2 is the widest range of there's some people that say they know poker, but they've never played live Texas Hold'em. And then there are people that play live Texas Hold'em 5 times a week. And I have a range of all those people. I even have people that have actually dealt semi-professionally that are also part of this group as well. They're really trying to focus their energies on becoming professionals 100%. And then I have some professionals, and I have several professionals that have applied for the job and have been offered positions. So we actually have, we're going to have some pros coming in, which is great. And quite frankly, I'm looking for more and more pros as time goes on, because we're running shorter on time and shorter on the ability to train. But I do foresee the ability, a lot of the people that are training now, once their skills have reached a certain point, we're going to audition them. And if they pass the audition, and by the way, Mark is the auditioner, and we can talk about auditions. That's a whole nother conversation, which is very interesting. But once they pass that audition, we're willing to offer them a position here at Pops. And I'm excited for the people that are training, because they put some sweat equity into it, and put some energy into learning. But it's a little bit of an uphill battle to do this all without the benefit of even the live table or seeing it happen or walking in. Once the room opens up and we have some live poker, a trainee could come in and probably train a little bit faster than we're able to do even now.
So it sounds like you've got a pretty good response, and you're still taking more. If anybody's interested in applying to work there, you're open to it at the very least. And it sounds like you're most interested in professionals or people who have that crossover skill set where they're able to get there, right?
Yeah, if I mean, at this point, if the people I'm most interested in are either professionals that have dealt somewhere else at one point in time and have some certification where they would describe themselves as professional poker dealer, so they've worked somewhere, or B, someone that's a very avid poker player. Avid meaning that they play at least once a week, maybe several times a week, and they are kind of involved in the game and they kind of understand the nuances of the game, without necessarily having to start at the beginning saying, well, okay, high card is the lowest rung on the ladder. And then there's
But they would still have to go through training, right? Like they're still gonna have to learn everything. Yeah. And they would have to pass the audition, et cetera, which you sort of mentioned. I'm helping with the auditions. It's something that I'm super excited to be a part of. We have a good setup for it. And I mean, I'm going to toot my own horn and say, this is what I do. Right. So I'm so excited to be a part of this.
Let me toot your horn for you. So, I mean, I don't know honestly, I don't know what I would do if I didn't have you in this picture. It would be much harder. I think the results, I mean, we would still open the room and we would still have dealers, but I think the results would be much less. You've given structure to this otherwise unstructured part of the business where I needed that structure. I mean, obviously there's all these other things: chips, cards, chairs, tables, shufflers, gaming systems, which we didn't even talk about. And yet I still have to do the staffing, and to have someone that I can say, okay, Mark, these are the people I'm talking to. Here's the level they're at. Oh, well, we did a live session with you a couple weeks ago. You watched everyone's shuffle. You watched their pitch. You watched their chip cutting techniques. You made comments on everybody, helping them out. Not comments, but constructive comments, like try doing this, bump the chip with your fingers. Okay, put your pinky down here, literally helping out every step of the way. Very, very valuable. And then when it comes to the auditions, I have people that come in and say, well, I've dealt for 10 years or I've dealt, whatever. Okay, well, sit down for an audition. I don't have to necessarily evaluate them. I'm getting Mark to evaluate them, who has, at least as much experience as them, if not more. And yet he also focuses on the auditions and the training and the proper techniques. And he's also taught it for a number of years. I think when you teach something, you understand it way better than if you just do it. And so being a teacher really galvanizes that information in your mind. So having Mark sort of looking over my shoulder and or me looking over his shoulder at these auditions while they're going on, he picks up nuances that I don't pick up, or most people wouldn't pick up. Little tiny things. And then he'll comment to me about them and he'll say, well, I thought that they were fine, but there's a couple things you're going to want to talk to them about. And here's what those couple of things are. And it's very, very valuable information. Very valuable.
Yeah, we've also been able to give them feedback. Most auditions, you don't actually get any feedback as the person who's auditioning about what you did wrong on the fly. And I've really enjoyed being able to do that finally. Like I say finally, right? Because it's not my room, right? So this process has been fascinating me, and I really enjoyed that we've been doing that. And I'm glad to hear how valuable it is for you. And I mean, I totally understand the value as well, but it's interesting. And just to the point, so you were sort of talking about the classes that you're running, the workshops that you're running. And yeah, we were able to do a Zoom session, and I imagine we'll probably do more stuff like this where, I was sort of checking out people's mechanics and seeing like, where are the bad habits? Let's fix them. And it's just pretty quick. It's me, right? I know what to do. I know how to do it. And yeah, I'm glad that went over as well as I pictured it going. It's definitely different doing this during COVID. I mean, there's no other way to say it. It like traveling and all that stuff is a little bit tougher. And so we've been doing a lot of this stuff remote, and it's cool,
Yeah, and COVID definitely throws a wrinkle into a little bit of everything. Certainly it throws a little bit of a wrinkle into people coming in and showing up, even just having 8 or 9 people around a table. I had someone call me last week that said, I have a doctor's note that says that I don't need to wear a mask. She had a medical condition, which I totally respect that, there was that challenge. But by the same token, I don't know if a doctor's note is going to make the rest of the 8 people around the table feel all that comfortable. And I have to try and keep it safe for everybody, at the same time. So it's just interesting how it's thrown that wrinkle. And then the question of, how are we going to open up in January or February based on, COVID and all of that. So we have plans that we're discussing and putting in motion. It doesn't take much to order plexiglass. It's kind of a last minute thing for us to order that plexiglass if we end up going in that route. Certainly masks, hand sanitizers, and a shield for the dealer at the very minimum is what we're doing.
I actually want to go over to some of the comments here. There's a few things that I think are pretty funny that I'm going to share real quick. So let me see. Wait, they want to learn how to do another one. So this one says, hit the nail on the head. I'm in the computing programming field and interested in dealing. And another one here says, where is a room opening? Hire me as a dealer. I have minimal decent experience. And another one says, I've been a professional underground dealer in New York City for 10 years now, self-trained by Mark himself. I get this all the time. It's super funny. Hire me, get me out of this hellhole of a city. So for people that are looking to actually, super important. Can we share something on the screen so they can see where to go to apply even? Do you have something that you could share?
Popspoker.com.
I can do it then.
You can go to popspoker.com. It's not much of a website yet. I apologize for that. Again, I'm a computer consultant and should probably have a much more involved website, et cetera. But it's yet another one of the nuts that you have to crack. And I just haven't had time to really put into it. And quite frankly, probably not going to put much more time into it. We're going to have other.
So they get a phone number basically.
Yeah. Phone number. Don't barrage my call with right now, but please put it in. You could also email me at rich@popspoker.com. If you email me your resume, introduce yourself. That's RICH@pops, POPS, poker.com. You can feel free to share that, share your information with me. I'm definitely looking for people. It's funny, get me out of this hellhole city. One of the guys that that's in training with us, a young gentleman I've known his whole life. I'm best friends with his father. And he was in New York City, and he's actually an actor, and really had to get out of New York himself because of this. He came back to Richmond, had a place to stay, obviously his parents. But now he's branching out on his own and looking to become a professional dealer. And really it's a great way to augment, his lifestyle. If you're an actor, and you got to go in for auditions, what are you doing when you're not auditioning? Well, you're probably waiting tables, earning, $15 an hour. Here you can be a professional dealer, be around poker, which is the fun part of life. I mean, this is not like, it's not surgery, right? It's not working in an emergency room per se. It's having fun. People are having a great time playing poker, and you can be around that. So if you're stuck in that city and you need to get out of there, then send me an email.
So is this correct? What I have here on the bottom of the screen? Can you see it? It says to apply to work at Pops Poker Room, email Rich Lehman at rich@popspoker.com. Do I have that right?
Yep, that's it. Yep. I just
Right.
read all these comments. I see everybody chiming in. It's great to hear from you. The size of Pops.
Yeah.
Man, the building.
Let's actually take a moment. We can pause what we were doing and we'll go through some of these now. Let's see. So we've got
My man Pierre Redding. I'll do a shout out. He's the singer in my band. Love that guy. He's my brother from another mother. Let's see, David. How are y'all coming down this morning? Good night. Sun up, sun down. I'm not sure what that means. Susan Frazier is a lady that I play a lot of poker with. Good to see Susan. Bob Sanner, another great man. I have nothing but respect for, and we talk not just poker but life all the time. And let's see, Greg. We talked Greg's question.
let's see what Spiro says.
I joined a little late today. Sorry if this was already been said or off topic. Was reading over the summer. Mark wanted to mention theirs during one of our streams, but always go. I'm not sure what.
Let's see.
Guys had a license to start their own poker room. Turns out they were taking drastic amounts of business from the casino in the area, so the casino offered to buy them out, bring them in as partners. As a partner, I would imagine it would be much harder in the USA to get a license from State's Gaming Commission to open a private casino poker room. So let's take a moment on that. We're completely different than a casino, and there are, interestingly enough, the casinos are coming to Virginia. It's another thing that has sprung up. So they've already passed bills, and they're discussing the locations. I'm not an expert on this, but I know the casinos are coming in about 3 to 4 to 5 years, and they're going to be 5 locations in Virginia alone. Now, they're going to have the ability to open up a poker card room, and that's great. They're going to fall under a different branch of the government. We are under the Charitable Gaming Board, which involves charity type poker. Now, my goal is that when you walk into our establishment, you're not feeling like it's a charity game and not 50% of the money goes to the charity and 50% goes to the prize. That's not how we're going to run the business. We're going to run it very similarly to the way MGM, National Harbor, runs their room. The same types of rakes on the tournaments, the same types of environment, because I believe that MGM has a very good model. I'm not trying to necessarily compete. I'm just offering top quality poker in Virginia. And so, but we are different than a casino. And what's interesting is in the regulations of the bill, you cannot open currently a card room that's not part of the charitable gaming, under the charitable gaming part of it. So a charity has to be a legit charity and has to apply for a gaming license in order to be a host. It was the original intention that you would also have to be an operator with a gaming license. Now it's a registration, but they're going to fix that so that next year it's actually the operator also has to be licensed as well. And then you could open up a card room, sure, and there could be competition, but it can't come from a casino, not yet. In our case, it's casinos are coming in about 4 years, and when they come, they come.
That's fascinating too. But so then you've been given this window, is what you're saying right now, where you can spread poker in Virginia, which is amazing.
And I think even once the casinos come, we'll still have plenty of business. You know, it's not like there's really not a limited number of poker players. People learn all the time. It's a growing business. And if there's a competition, well, then sure. I feel that at that point, we'll establish some brand loyalty. We'll people will have tiers of memberships. People will have money on their comps. They like playing with us. They have favorite dealers, et cetera, et cetera. That's what I'm hoping that we'll be able to continue long after the casinos come. I'm not seeing that as necessarily being a problem.
Makes sense, yeah.
McDonald's and there's Burger King, and both survive.
So Bob put this there, asked Rich about the extremely time-challenging process of finding and training dealers, which we talked a lot about. It's a good question, though.
Right.
And then Greg said, please share the horror stories with the class. This was in reference to chip designs. Some chips, because they have color schemes. I'm just going to answer this real quick to sort of satisfy it. They have color schemes where the base of the chip is one color, and then there's a separate color where there's like dashes or whatever on the outside of the chips.
Yeah.
Making matches and then matching the color of the felt. From what I've heard, you'd be surprised at how challenging that can be back in the day, where you would get little felt swatches and stuff like that. That's an entire live stream conversation if we wanted to do it sometime. Did you want me to bring this back up on the screen? It seems like you did.
Sure. These are the cash chip, basically the cash chip ideas that we have. And this, I'll be honest with you, this was made much easier once the designer came out with the design. But you'll notice that we had to pick colors for these edge spots here. Like, look at the white, it's got a red and a blue. They basically tapped off our red and our blue. So we have red, white, and blue for the white and the 5. 3 edge spots on the 1, 4 edge spots on the 5, 5 edge spots on the 25, and 6 on the 100. It's funny, they sent me a sample of their 100 chip, and it had these exact same colors with like, almost looks like a bumblebee type color. And I really liked it, and Chuck and Akiva really liked it too. So we kept it for the 100. So it's predominantly a black chip, as most 100s are, but then we have these 6 edge spots going around that make it interesting. And then one more little thing about chips. We actually did how do I get totally out of that? Let's go to that. So on the tournament chips, I don't know if you might notice, but there's a little bit of a nod here to the World Series of Poker. The World Series of Poker, the $100 chips are typically black. The 1000s are yellow, the 5000s are orange, and the 25,000s are green, lime green. If you look at, in their traditional colors that they've had. The 500s were typically like a light blue. I went with the periwinkle and the blue for the 10,000s, which is a little bit lesser used chip. But I tried to give a little bit of a nod to the World Series of Poker with our tournament chips as well, just to kind of make it fun. That's a little known secret. We'll just let it out to all the true stream people. You know that nobody else knows, right? They're going to come in. They're not going to think twice about these colors. But there was even thought into those colors as to what we should make them and why should we make them these colors. So
that's just remarkable. This comment was up there too from before. That looks like a nice table. I'd play at it or deal at it when I had the table up earlier. Just pretty interesting. Let's see, what else is this?
Bob, what's up? Pierre, thank you. Captain Penn Burke, I play with him. Good poker player, fun guy, and he lives at the Riva, he likes to say. We
sort of talked about this already. You said that something like 30 is where you would almost definitely have maybe more, but starting with 10 tables, and starting with, right, you got to figure out what happens.
It's you have to dip your toe into the water to like make it happen first. You can't just go, oh, we're going to open up poker for the first time in Virginia with 10 tables or 30 tables or 75 tables. And then you can't even fill 5 tables. So what we're doing is opening limited fashion, 10 tables. I think we're going to have a line out the door. One thing I would like, we haven't really discussed was, and I'll just interject this here. We're going to have a player tracking system called Poker Atlas Table Captain. It's by a company called Poker Atlas.
I forgot about that.
Oh, they're fantastic, man. They are such a great group of people. And they've been very, very easy to work with, very helpful. Again, it all comes down to, use your own product. And I can tell you the CEO of this company has used his own product. He says, you know what would I want if I came to Poker Atlas and said, I want to work with you? Well, how about get on the phone with me and give me a personal phone call? Or if we have a need, like we need to talk to you, I need to talk to your programmer so I can understand how to integrate our system with your system from a programmatic standpoint, because we have some things that we're going to have to develop that are outside of the norm to make sure that everything fits within regulations and law. And yet, he said, sure, I'll give you my programmer. And the next day I get this guy call me in 1 hour. We worked out all the details, done. Whereas the competitor, who I'm going to leave nameless, was who was on virtually every table. When you swipe a card and you punch the number in, that competitor didn't return phone calls or emails. They were very difficult to get in touch with. Again, help people out. You never know what opportunity the next phone call you pick up might be the rest of your life. I mean, at one point, I did get a phone call from Chuck Lesson asking me if I'm interested in working with him on poker. And if I said, I don't got time for that, then this whole thing wouldn't have happened for me, right? So
that's pretty interesting. I do want to sort of mention John, the CEO of Poker Atlas. I've had the pleasure of talking with him out in Vegas. He is a passionate guy. He actually started out doing all the design for it himself because he wanted there to be something better. And working with him has to be a dream.
It's a dream. He's great.
Yeah.
His company's great. Couldn't be more excited about it. And it's a better product. It's a better product than the competitor. For example, you're going to be able to stay at home. Let me back up. If I want to go up north and play somewhere in Maryland, I have to drive an hour and a half to 2.5 hours to get to the closest casino. I'm in the car doing nothing, twiddling my thumbs, driving, trying to be safe, right? I get there and I find out there's 45 people on the waiting list. I have to go to a brush or whoever's going to greet me. They have to staff that person who then I stand in line with 5 other people, then to get up to the front of the line to say, it's Rich Lehman, Rich L, put me on the list. And they'll go, okay. And now I'm 47th on the list. Okay. And I'm on the list. And now I got to wait. I got to wait around the table because that's where they're going to announce me. They're going to say, okay, Rich L, it's your turn. And if I don't show up within a couple of minutes, they go to the next person. So even if I go up there and get on the waiting list, which is now maybe another hour, if I go downstairs and play some blackjack for 30 minutes, I might go, oh, shoot, where am I on the list? I got to go back up and check. And I got to cash out of the blackjack table, go upstairs. Oh, you're 27th still on the list. And oh, another hour. That's not going to happen. In our card room, Poker Atlas Table Captain, you're going to be able to sign up for the waiting list at home. at home. And it'll tell you where you are on the list. So start driving. You'll know basically when you get there, and you have 5 minutes to respond to a text that will be automatically sent to you saying your table is ready. Come to the front desk, get your seat. And we don't have to manage that waiting list. And you can sign up for it at home, or you can check it at home, which you could also do with the competitor, but you couldn't sign up for it and you couldn't see where you were on the list. And those are two major factors in improving the quality of the system, which I give credit to John and his company for. They saw a problem and they solved it.
Yeah, they're good for sure. It's nice having an option. Let's see. This was also one more comment that I just wanted to hit up. Oh, I live in South Florida. I'll come visit and play someday. I really appreciate all your tips. Watching your videos helped me get my first couple of dealing gigs. Yeah, listen, I am so appreciative that so many people love True Poker Dealer so much. I know that I put my heart and soul into it, and it's really cool. Even being able to talk to Rich right now because of it, and I'm glad you guys are all a part of it. And this is the same person who earlier said this comment, which we talked about: hire me as a dealer. So maybe once I see somebody saying, "Hey, watching your videos helped my first couple dealing gigs," maybe I'm encouraging them, Rich, and I'm doing a little wink, right, just on their behalf to see what we can do there. But
I can tell you, Richmond is a great place to live. I might as well plug that for a sec because. I mean, I grew up in Richmond. I've been here my entire life, except when I went to college, which was in Blacksburg, Virginia. Go Hokies. Little plug there. And that's where I got my engineering degree from. But Richmond is really a great town. It's not so small that there's nothing to do. We have lots of venues that attract large national talent. We get concerts. We have a jazz festival here. Lots of music. We have VCU and U of R. As far as colleges go, excellent school system here, and in addition, it's very centrally located. Richmond, it's close to, within 2 hours of Washington D.C. It's centrally located on the East Coast. If you want to go to Florida, you can get there in a day. If you want to go to New York, you can get there in a day. If you want to go to the beach, it's an hour and a half to 2 hours away to get to the beach. And Virginia Beach, I would put it up against with some of the greatest beaches in the world. It's a beautiful, beautiful seaside area, and it's a very large town. It's actually, I think, the largest city in Virginia by landmass, but yet it's just a great place to go. So Richmond is not a bad place to be, and if you kind of feel like you're in New York City or a large city like that where it's crazy with COVID, I mean, we have some restrictions here too currently that the governor put out, but it's all temporary. It's going to pass, and we'll work through it. But in the meantime, there's no place in Richmond you can't get to within 20 minutes. Even during rush hour. Rush hour is not as bad here. If you go up to Northern Virginia, awful. It's awful. It's like some of the worst in the world. LA, those type of places are terrible.
Well, and let me ask you this. So I have so many people that I know in the industry that work in so many different states. So if there's poker rooms there, I pretty much know people there. And I always think it's funny when someone tells me they deal somewhere and I can literally just talk to people I know that deal at that same place and find them, right? So I know a lot of people in Maryland, and so many people are telling me, I want to go to Virginia when it opens up. It's really interesting to hear all that. I don't know much about Virginia other than some of my conversations with them and with you, for example. What are the people like there? They seem pretty nice. So I'm sort of curious. What are the people like in Virginia?
I'm going to come off a little biased because this is my home. But I can tell you that Virginia, I think, encompasses a very balanced lifestyle. I think a lot of people, maybe from the north, when they think of people down south, it's a little slow. It's all farmland, stuff like that. Of course, we have major cities here. And of course, we have farmland too, There's a little bit of everything here. It's a mixture of city living, suburban living, and rural living. The people here, I think, are some of the nicest people in the world. They're, for the most part, great people in Virginia, and I'm proud to call myself a Virginian. I find this, the further south I go, I find that the hospitality is opened up in other great states as well, like North Carolina and Georgia and South Carolina and Florida, etc. And when you go north, it's not that it's not any more hospitable. It's just different kinds of people that, have different kinds of vibes and feelings. And there's some phenomenal cities up there. I have cousins up in Boston. Love Boston. Love New York. New York's a beautiful, beautiful city. With
That's such a Virginia thing to say. Look, I'm from Boston, and so I'm fine cutting you off and saying that people are angry up there. It is what it is.
Well, maybe they are. Maybe they are a little more. Because there's just so much interaction. You have to almost like wade through the people to get to the person you want to get to. So you make less time for people. Whereas down here, I think people make a little more time for each other. It takes me 10 minutes or 5 minutes to get in a car and drive to the local grocery store. I could walk there, okay, but it would take me 30, 40 minutes to walk to the grocery store, which is ridiculous. In New York City, you just walk downstairs and you go to the grocery and you come back up. You get done, right? But you stay within this little small insular spot, whereas in Virginia, you've got to spread out. You're going to have to communicate with other types of people all the time. All the time. You're constantly meeting people. There's a big insurgence of people from India, for example, in Richmond. Huge amount of people. They're wonderful, wonderful people. I end up meeting lots and lots of people from India, for example. Black and white are completely integrated in Virginia all over. I mean, I really think that Virginia is a quintessential melting pot, but allows people the flexibility to reach out and stretch out and space. Look, if you want to get away from people, you can go home and you don't have banging on the walls constantly. You can actually own a home. I mean, we live in a modest home, but we live on an acre of land. An acre. That's a lot of damn land. You can't have an acre in New York City. It's amazing. You just have space. You have more space. Space gives people a mind to think a little bit, I think.
I just wanted to put this comment up because it's funny. Yes, people are angry in Boston. Source, I've played there. So first of all, I super appreciate you spending the time on here, and it's so powerful having a place where somebody like yourself can come and give perspective into this exciting world of casino, right? And exciting world of poker. And I'm super appreciative that you came and spent the time here. And I'm so excited for Pop's Poker Room to open. It's just, I've worked with and talked to a lot of people in the industry, and I genuinely mean this when I say, when we were talking about working together on any front, I always vet people and I say no to a lot of people and I say yes to some. And you guys have integrity, you're engaged, there's I'm going to say it the way that I want to say it. There's some slime in the industry, and I love not interacting with that. I really do. And it's like people that have agendas and all that stuff. I have been talking to you and working with you for an extended period of time now, trying to get all this stuff done. And you are like, I would absolutely work for you. Like, I mean that. In a poker room there, if I had not been an entrepreneur for the last 4 years, you're the type of person I would want to work for. I was fortunate enough to work for somebody else like you 10 years ago, and I stayed working for them for a long time. And it's great to know that I mean, you're passionate about it. You're not just there to collect a check. You're not just there to, you care, you learn, is all this stuff. You take my feedback really well. It's amazing. So I want to say thank you for caring is the real bottom line I'm trying to go with there, and for putting all this thought into everything that you do. I do still have a couple more topics. I don't know how much time you have. We're a little bit over what we talked about, but
no, I'm fine. I'm good. Thank you for that, by the way. I appreciate, and the compliment is well received. I appreciate what you're saying, and I thank you for the same, because I think I could have easily landed on any random person in the industry of poker, but I landed with you.
Well, thank you.
And so I feel very fortunate that I had the opportunity to be a part, and to have you be a part of it, and to be able to rely on you like I do. And you've been phenomenal, really. So thank you for that.
Appreciate that in this moment.
And I also feel like it could have been with different people as well, but I happened to get lucky and work with Chuck and Akiva. I mean, that was a complete blessing. We the three of us talk about this a lot, where we're just tickled pink that we were all fortunate to have found each other to get this project off the ground. So,
well, there's some magic there, is really what I'm trying to say, and it's great. I'm actually curious. It sounded like, so my goal in this conversation was to sort of talk about the things that you had to go through so far in your journey to opening the room. Have you had to deal with any construction yet? I asked that question because people don't always realize it's a part of it.
That's a great question. There's a good story behind that one. When I first started working, well, first of all, Chuck and Akiva are builders. That's their background, is building.
Oh,
They
wow.
built Pops Poker. That building is they built it themselves. They built many homes. I don't even know how many homes. Chuck would probably say, come on, don't you know the number? It's a couple hundred, couple thousand, whatever. But he's been a builder for many, many years, and it's really interesting when you go through a room like, say, Pops Poker, which maybe hopefully on the next part 2 of this, I will certainly do it on site and take you around and show you the room and everything that we've done. He remodeled the Pops is divided into basically 2 sides. There's a bingo side, and then there in the middle there's like a bar and offices and a kitchen, and on the other side is the actual restaurant area of the bar and the bar opening area. And that bar area, they remodeled that, I believe, for a couple of $1 million a few years back. They know building. They know how to remodel. So when you walk around with them through the building and there's certain changes we'd like to make for poker, like he'll say, okay, well, we're gonna build a little thing here, a wall here. We're gonna put glass doors in. We'll put carpeting, and that's about $7,500. This is about $10,000. He's already putting the items that he's going to need to purchase and who he has to put into motion to build it in his head. And so, fortunately, right, for me as a poker operations manager, if I say, what would it take to do X, Y, and Z? He can just go, okay, well, it's going to be feasible. It's not going to be feasible. Here's what we can do. Here's what we can't do. Right off the bat. And Akiva, the same thing. Akiva has the same exact ability. Actually, that right there is Lawrenceville.
Is it? So this is the same. Is this you guys, but in a different location?
No, that's Lawrenceville.
Oh, I found a totally different thing.
Yeah, that's Lawrenceville.
My bad. I'm trying here.
That's all right. I think you had pictures. I could probably. Well, I don't. Maybe we'll save that for part 2. I didn't.
Yeah, I tried.
It needs to see the pictures. It talks to me about it. I'm happy to show you around and show you the pictures. I should have had that prepared. I didn't. But it's interesting. We are going to go through some construction. Like, for example, the cage. We don't have a cage. There's no cage. So we have to develop a cage. And who, again, they have surrounded themselves with great people. We have this incredible carpenter that they've known for many years, an older man that just knows the business inside and out, knows how to create anything you can come up with. And we're going to basically create this gorgeous cage that's going to work, for what our needs are, at least temporarily. On the bingo side of things, there's already a cage, and it's perfect for our needs. But we're not utilizing the bingo side of things at the moment. We're just utilizing the restaurant bar side of things. And so, yeah, there is some construction that we're going through right now to build that cage out. Other than that, not a lot of construction necessary, really. Just some interior designing. We're looking at putting carpeting down. We're going to have velvet ropes, most likely. Ultimately, may have some new drop lighting that'll come down over each table. My thought is, again, I like formulas that already work. And years ago, I learned, from a successful businessman, if you're going to walk through a minefield, walk after somebody. You don't want to walk through the minefield and then have the mines blow up on you. Let someone else go through and then walk after them. So if you look at other casinos and card rooms, you can see what works already. And so we just try to model after that, which involves some drop lighting. It involves carpet, it involves nice tables, it involves, all these other things, accoutrements that we've sort of put in place already. So yeah, there's some construction happening.
I think about all this stuff. It's like, you got to want to be a poker room manager, director in order to take that. Anybody that's just thinking like, I'll sort of do that job for the check one day. It's just not like that.
No, there's no sitting back collecting a check. I'll tell you that. And I mean, what you have to be though is obviously you have to have some knowledge in poker. Okay. And I mean, I would say my poker knowledge is, higher than most probably, but not necessarily higher than other poker operations managers or even dealers that have experience. But, I know the game very well. I've read all the rules. I know all the rules. I can adjudicate matters. I can floor supervise, all those things. That's not what I'm worried about.
I can speak to that with you. Absolutely.
That's the part that's fairly, I think, fun to do and probably easier to do from a poker management standpoint. The harder parts are that any problem that comes up, you have to start searching for a solution. You have to be able to solve that problem, and you have to be willing to do whatever it takes to solve that problem. And that's really what it comes down to. It's a whatever it takes type of mentality that, like, what if it comes up and you already got 15 things on your plate, add a 16th thing, stick it on Google Docs, share it with the people you're working with, so you all are working on the same page, which is what I've done. That's maybe one thing I brought to the table, is a little computer knowledge. Is throw things up where we all of us can share in what we have to share in, and we don't have to constantly repeat to everybody, oh, did I tell you? Did I tell you? No, it's all on the same page. And all the time, we're all thinking on the same page. And then we're all able to engage in that process of solving the problems. So I think that's really probably the biggest advice I would give to somebody if someone were to start, is just be willing to do whatever it takes. It's really, what more would you need to know? If you have to learn the game of poker better, then learn the game of poker better. In my case, I had to learn how to shuffle cards properly. I had to learn how to pitch cards. I felt my pitch was okay. You even agreed my pitch was okay. You said
you got good skills, Rich. I've seen them.
Good pitch. But my chip cutting is, there were some people that came down from New York City or New York, upstate New York. If you're watching, hello guys. They came down and did an audition. Their chip cutting was beautiful. Plop, 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 plop. The lady from Boston, beautiful chip cutting. I loved it. It was so smooth, and I was like, wow, I hope I can get to that point one day, So those are the things I had to work on and improve my skills and say, well, all right, well, I'm not going to be dealing, but I have to know how to deal, and I have to know the nuances of dealing, and I have to know, when do you take rake? What's the order of a dealer? Are you, splat, when you put the stub down, how do you properly put a stub down? Put a cut card on top, spread the cards, put the cut card on top. I never knew that. I've never done that in a home game. Who the heck does that in a home game? Nobody. That's the difference between being a player and a dealer. But these are learnable things, and they're learnable. And then once you learn them, you can teach them, and you can pass it on. So yeah.
Absolutely. There's a lot to talk about there. I want to put this comment up here real quick. Vegas Aces, Heather, she's the one that actually taught me to use StreamYard, and I've been on her live stream before, and always happy to hear you. And she's paying homage. She's in Vegas, obviously, and awesome. She likes my background. So I just wanted to say hey on that. Something else, if you're thinking about being a poker director, for anyone that's out there, got to be able to talk. I don't know if Rich has proven that to you yet. I think he has very well. What types of people are hitting you up all the time, and what do you have to do? And
yeah, you mean what? Well,
for the media or anything like that.
So I'm working on that. I'm working on getting the word out. This is really the first interview I've done and the first bit of marketing even. Now I have a posse of friends, and I see my buddy Lee McNutt over here commenting, "What's up, my brother?" I want to say that I have a group of friends that I regularly play poker with in lots of various groups. I think at one point I counted 15 different poker groups I was a part of. I kept adding them, over time. It's like, here's another opportunity to play, this one, Omaha high-low, let's play that. Let's bring this group in. And before you know it, I just started playing as much poker as I possibly could. And I have kind of through the years sort of just been, a friend in every group, like an ambassador to the game to some extent, that I feel like I sort of helped to tie some of the people in Richmond together as part of a local Richmond community. I'm a piece of that, because there are several people that do the same kind of thing. And
it's got to be hard to even have stuff like that in a place with no poker, right? Like, living in South Florida, I almost forget what it's like, because I used to be in Massachusetts and I had to go down to Connecticut to Foxwoods in order to play, and I forget what that's like. It's got to be tough.
Well, we have, through COVID's been kind of tough in one sense, that you can't go out and play live poker with people. However, the flip side of that is we've opened up some online games with some friends. And, I have a group where I got like over 100 people in my group, and we'll play poker on typically Thursdays and Sunday nights. I'll host a couple of tournaments. We use various means for exchanging funds. We use Poker Stars for the game. We use Zoom for the interaction. We get on Zoom and we're chit-chatting like you and I are doing, and it's the same stuff. You want to give people the same crap you give them when you're live, etc. And we have a great time, and actually playing as much or more poker than we did before COVID. But that's how we in Richmond, Virginia have had to cope with the idea that like now there's no poker. Now there's no poker going on, right? Live, virtually.
Yep.
So, in your case, you're like, oh yeah, I can hop on down to the casino and play. What happens if that casino didn't exist? What would you do then? Then you would have to be a part of some home games, in which case I'm saying over 15, 20 years, I've been involved in about 15 different groups. And it takes time to meet people and get invited to a group and this group and that group and that group and that group before you now have some options available to you. And they're all different. Everyone has different people, different ways they do stuff, different games they play, different stakes, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas, if you have a casino, it's like, well, I like playing 1-3 no limit, or I like playing 2-5, or I like playing tournaments or whatever. All these different options that you would have if you were up in Maryland, it would be great. You can just hop on over to the casino and do what you want to do. They don't have that option in Virginia until now.
It's just a different world. I mean, to answer your question, if there were no casinos here, I'd have an itch and I'd have no way to scratch it, is the simplest way to go on that. So I find this interesting. So I'm going to ask about it. Maybe there's just personal interest to me, but your software background, you keep touching on it. Can you just tell a little bit about it? Because I think it's so fascinating and valuable for poker.
Well, my background is electrical engineering from Virginia Tech. I graduated in 1989, and I worked for a couple years as an electrical engineer. And, at the time there was the last job that I had a computer consultant that would just pop on in. He didn't have to get dressed up or anything. He wore jeans and a button-down shirt, and he loved what he did. He got paid by the hour. He was in control of his time. And I'm thinking, God, that's what I want to do. I want to do that. I don't want to have to sit here at a desk all day and do what I'm told to do and be yelled at by my boss, which, I had a boss that I wasn't a big fan of. And it inspired me. And so I had a knack for computers all through college. And that was back in the days when computers were just starting. I mean, if you think about it, 1985 is when I started college. And in 1984, the Apple Mac came out. That's when the woman with the hammer threw it in the Super Bowl commercial, and she threw that hammer, remember, at the big movie screen. She's like, and then threw it like an Olympic hammer. And that's when it was the birth of the personal computer. And then 1 year later, I have a personal computer going as a freshman in college at Virginia Tech, and I started learning from the very bottom, like DOS 2.0. Boom, here you go. And so I had a knack for it, and it was something I enjoyed doing. And when I found out that this was a profession I could do, I quit a job to start my career. And it was rough going at first, but then I figured it out. I started making mistakes and making adjustments, and I found that my knack was really more geared for programming. I'm a logical thinker. I think step by step on things, and as you know, programming is step by step. And I came across a program in the early 90s called Microsoft Access. And Microsoft Access is, it was everybody was getting Microsoft Office, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, right? But there was this other program called Access, and everybody would click on it and go, ooh, I don't want to touch that, right?
I definitely have felt that way in the past. Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know what that is, but I know that it's not for me. And I started getting into it once I realized I can create my own program with Microsoft Access. I was hooked. And so I've basically been a Microsoft Access developer ever since. That's the 80% of my business. And then another 20% of the business over the years has been, training people, teaching people, solving problems like viruses and, consulting, general consulting. What computer should I buy? Can you hook up a network, et cetera, those kind of things. But my background with programming is specifically Microsoft Access, SQL Server, Visual Basic for applications, all that programming stuff. And I've developed programs, everything from very simple Rolodex type things to software that manages and controls an entire business, like a jewelry store, printing company. I had a printing company one time that developed a software for that. They printed billboards. Every Cracker Barrel billboard in this country was printed at this location. And they had a sheet of paper. They would take a sheet of paper that would be the work order. They would stick it inside of a plastic sleeve. It had a barcode on it, and they would scan the barcode every time they did something to it, and my program would advance the category of where it was at, send that information to the web, and their clients could log into the web and check the status of their order. It was really neat stuff. So systems like that are things I've developed over the years. I have a client in no, I'm not. I think she's in Pennsylvania. Yeah, she's in Pennsylvania. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on this, but she owns a parts supply for BMW auto parts, and she sells them on eBay. And a few years ago, she said, "Can I put this stuff up on eBay?" I said, "Sure." I ended up developing the API, the Advanced Programming Interface, to integrate Access with eBay. She can now click a button, and it just posts the whole thing. It's like a huge set of information that gets sent up to eBay at the click of one button. That's kind of what programmers do. They learn to automate tasks, make things easier, make things more efficient, but you follow a logical process. So there are a great number of parallels between being a programmer and working in this industry, in that there's a problem, we have to solve it. I have to write down all the steps I'm going to have to eventually come up with, things that I have to create a manual. I have to create a procedure or policy for bad beat jackpots, let's say. I have to come up with all the different things. I can model it off of things that are already out there. I adjust it. I vet it through my own mind. I vet it through other people, and then we come up with a policy. It's just taking each problem one step at a time and solving them.
Well, I super appreciate you talking about all this stuff and providing this insight into what it's like to do this job. I don't think there's very much information about this out there. So this is incredibly valuable. I'm incredibly appreciative that you spent the time doing this. And, I hope that people got a chance to really get to know you through this. I feel like it was exactly that, right? Like, I feel like if somebody watched even a reasonable chunk of this, they're going to get to know Rich, and I'm super happy that we just got to spend the time doing this. So definitely thank you for coming on. And I just want to give you an opportunity, if there's anything else you just want to mention about this topic or anything else real quick before we jump off, now would be a cool time.
Well, you're looking at a guy right here that is as excited about life as I've ever been. I'm 53 years old, and I feel like I'm just starting. I mean, I never imagined that, like, at this point I would be able to say to a 30-year consulting career that, you know what, that was fun and it was good, but I'm ready to do something else and yet I wake up every morning as excited as I possibly could be, working in this industry, working with the people that I'm working with, and the opportunities that are ahead of us. So, I guess, and I really appreciate this opportunity, by the way, to be, interviewed and to come on and talk with you, Mark. And also thank you for your professionalism and everything that you've done for us as well. So thank you for everything.
Appreciate that, and yeah, thank you too. It's awesome receiving your curiosity and engagement is the simplest thing I could say, and people are gonna love working for you for sure. So.
And if anybody is really serious about finding a job as a dealer position, then feel free to email me or call me. I'm open and I'm available, and I think I have about 20 texts that I haven't answered during this. Maybe some of you have already made the effort to call me and talk to me. I told Akiva, if there's anything you want me to say while I'm on, then text me. I haven't even looked at my phone.
There's no time. I make sure of that. Well, thanks again.
I'm going to have a hard time filling up 30 minutes, and here we are an hour and 40 minutes later.
Yeah, it's longer than I pictured, but I find that's what happens. And, part 2 is going to be cool when you guys are actually open. So
looking forward to it, man. Looking forward.
Yeah, same. All right. Well, we're gonna jump off now, and let's see. Thank you to everybody for watching. Appreciate you guys.
Guys, thank you, Mark.